chances are you're wrong about 99% of things in your life, including the stuff you think is good in video games, which is clearly the most important thing in the world to debate. At least that's the impression you may be getting when you dive into the dumpster fire that is Reddit or any given social media platform. But hey, you may also be wrong about what you're capable of in life, which is generally more than you think. Think about it, how many times did you think I can't handle this and you handled it anyway? Food for thought. Starting the video on a positive note, I like it. Very good script writing. Thank you very much, me of Monday morning who should really be working right now. Like literally, I've wasted good hours on this, which I'm going to have to make up by being unreasonably productive for the rest of the week, but I just needed to get the script out of my head. Now turning back to opinions on things in general, sadly I'm no exception to this rule, and my opinion on some matters should live with the raccoons in the back alley dumpster where it belongs. So when I was recently asked by a colleague at work what the best fight in Final Fantasy XIV is, I found myself unsatisfied with my own answer. Because the answer that I gave was just my opinion, and I'm just one man. A strong, capable man with excellent emotional regulation skills, but still just one man. And even though I think I have a pretty decent idea of which of these are good, I can't help but wonder if that is actually true. Is what I think is good actually good, or am I just looking at the world through rose-tinted, heavensward-shaped glasses? It was all sunshine and rainbows until your TP ran dry and you had to yell at your ninja for goat or tank your DPS because you couldn't hit the accuracy requirements. Do you have any idea how difficult it was to hit that shit as a scholar, and how much money you had to sink into materia? It was pandemonium! Not really, that happened much later. I'm not sure why I wrote that joke down. I don't think it's very good, but here it shall remain. So because of this distrust in my own ability to estimate the quality of a fictional battle correctly, I set out to do it right and create a tier list of battles for the ages that we shall all be referring to in 10 years time, because surely Yoshi P can't produce anything better than the content that was made upwards of 10 years ago. Now including all dungeon bosses, raids, and possibly fates in that ranking is obviously a convoluted endeavor and probably just bad form anyway, since sometimes I'd be comparing Papotus to Gazal Greens. So to break this task down into manageable chunks, we'll be focusing on a piece of the whole pie, one relatively well-defined category of encounters that we can sink our teeth into, so we can toss the leftovers in the freezer and deal with them later in like a year or so. Welcome everybody, my name is Honey and I find answers to questions that no one asked. And this is the definitive and objectively best ranking of trials on Final Fantasy XIV, excluding Dawntrail, which we'll get to later. I've been live streaming the research and I guess in a sense part of the making of the video, so if you want to be part of that process you can either join the live stream or follow on social media to get notified when I ask my stupid questions there. For now, let's get into the method for this unnecessarily convoluted tier list to quasi-scientifically forever end the best trial debate, which I'm not sure if anyone is actually actively having, but if you are, then well, here we go. But first, let's set up the ground rules and define some terms so we may differentiate ourselves from the unwashed masses of mass-produced YouTube slop. A tier list is a relatively simple affair, at least if you're doing things normally, that is. Normal is however not enough on this channel, as we consistently strive for slightly above average around here. Which hasn't actually been true until now, if I'm being honest, but we're on a journey of self-discovery and things are about to change. So first of all, we need to clarify some terms. What does best mean? Because depending on who you ask, you'll be getting a different answer. For some, it's going to be the challenge of a fight. Some just want something that looks cool, and others literally keep their eyes closed as they jitterbug into every single AoE while vibing to the amazing soundtrack. Now, I can't make an assumption for the data generated by anyone else that I'm using, but I'll be setting a standard for my own rating, which will take into account the following 3 parameters. Number 1, the gameplay, meaning the appropriateness of difficulty, the creativity of mechanics, and the smoothness of execution. Number 2, presentation, which includes the visuals of the boss, its moves, and to a degree the arena as well as the music. Number 3, impact, in terms of the emotional attachment, story placement, and the subjective experience of the fight. Furthermore, I will not be separating this into normal, hard, and extreme modes, because that would be incredibly cumbersome and may lead to a situation where the top 5 is populated by different versions of the same fight. Which I find incredibly unlikely, but it would be boring and I'd rather avoid the situation altogether. Okay, now that we know what best even means, we're also going to be looking at excluding some of the fights we don't care about, which there are a few of. Dawntrail trials will be excluded from this list for several reasons, first of which being that they're not part of any existing tier list, which can probably be safely attributed to the fact that in general people like to create these tier lists after an expansion has concluded, such as not to miss any future trials in the rating. This simply means that we don't have enough data to rate them, and even if we did, I think we can agree that none of them would make the top 5 anyway. Now, I love MOBA mobile suit Beatrix over there as much as any other man with a heart that beats for adventure and romance, but she ain't dethroning any of the fan favorites. I will also be excluding those trials that I've aptly sorted in under the I guess it exists category in my own tier list. And I don't think it's a secret that no Chimera, Hydra, or Typhoon will be winning any prizes today if the opponent is literally Crystal Mommy herself. So off they go, don't need them anymore, sweep them under the rug where they belong and have them occasionally return to grant me easy free experience. Alright, rules are set out, so what do we do now? Obviously, I'm going to throw my own opinion into the mix, for it is scholarly and refined, but that's hardly sufficient to make the ranking anywhere near objective and definitive. So I set out to gather as many tier lists as I could, such that I might compile the data and find a reasonable average. Which isn't many as it turns out. 2 in fact. There are actually not as many tier lists of all trials out there as I thought, which is kind of weird because you'd think it's like the holy grail of low-hanging fruits and a lot of content creators would have gone after it already. And even if they claim to be containing all the trials in the game, it turns out some of them are filthy liars and omit some because they apparently felt like it. So I'm not sure if it's professional integrity or some bullshit, but I ended up with only 2 videos to work with that were comprehensive in any reasonable way. One by Xenos' Vex, and the other by Wes Alder. So if you want to go and have a look at those, go right ahead. Though they're not nearly as good as this one, so I don't know why you'd ever want to do that. In fact, I was having a miserable experience thanks to Xeno trying to identify some of the pixel slop he was throwing on screen. What the hell is this abomination? I need clarification. I need clarification, Mr. Beardman. Can you make these any smaller, please? I love not being able to see what I'm dealing with. What the hell is here? What is this? I can't see anything. Emerald weapons? So low? God, Xenos, do you not like fun? Do you not like having fun in your life? I mean, Jesus Christ. Now I understand that this is by no means a large set of data, which is why I tried to enlist the help of social media, which also failed gloriously because I have no goddamn reach. Seriously, you'd think people would jump at the chance to share their terrible opinions, but I guess we're just anti-social maxing now. Don't talk to anyone even if it's on the internet. Shut off those oxytocin receptors, replace that shit with dopamine, let's go! Oxytocin is a bonding hormone, by the way, that's produced by physical touch among other things, the more you know. Either way, I did what I could and used the data that I had, which were the tier lists of the aforementioned creators, and the one I created myself, all of which were weighted equally. To be able to generate a ranking out of this, I have mapped points to each tier on their respective tier lists. An S tier is 6 points, A tier 5 points, B tier 4 points, C tier 3 points, D tier 2 points, F tier 1 point, and anything below that is 0 points. A trial absent from the list will be awarded the median 3 points, which mostly applies to Xenos rankings because I guess he created it before Endwalker, and then either never made one again, or YouTube neglected to show it to me, sneaky bastards. We'll be then calculating the average of the scores for every trial between the lists and thus generate a final score that will undeniably determine the greatest trial there ever was. Since the data is sparse, I'll only be sharing the top 5 results that have manifested from the overall rankings. Also, because of the absence of good data, a lot of the trials have the same point averages, which means either I'll have to be the tiebreaker myself or ask someone else to do it for me. We'll get to that when we get there. Now, let's actually start looking at the damn data. But before we get into the juicy part, I have a few honorable right, sure, go ahead, ruin my recording, it's fine. I didn't actually want to record today, it's okay, don't worry about it. But before we get to the juicy part, I have a few honorable mentions that didn't quite make it into the top 5. Innocence made it to number 11 in the final ranking with a total score of 4.35, and I think he's interesting specifically because of the gap of sheer impact between his normal and extreme versions. The extreme fight is fine, not too hard, not too annoying, first extreme of the expansion, so it's designed to not be overwhelming for new players. That's perfectly fine, nice, don't mind it at all. Thumbs up to you, Yoshi, you're doing a really great job out there. What makes it stand out is that looking at the combination of gameplay, presentation, and impact, the normal version is overall better, which normally doesn't happen. But here we have a first phase that is, to be fair, only a set piece for the story, but still entirely absent from the extreme version. Which means it's also missing the transitional cutscene, which was absolutely goddamn stunning. All of these things make Innocent stand out as the one fight that provides a superior normal mode experience. Sure, let's go with that. The normal mode experience is superior. Thank you, I'm out. Goodbye. In the final rankings, Titan made it to a staggering 9th place with an average of 4.68 points, despite being one of the first trials ever released. One of the reasons for this is likely a combination of impact and presentation, considering he was the first boss who was not only given 1, but 5 separate battle themes. Titan is absolutely legendary, both as a fight that took players into the game and one that intensely frustrated them when the hard and extreme modes were released back in the day. It's easy today, but apparently back before the game had taken off, servers were so bad you couldn't dodge a simple landslide AoE, and got punted off the platform continuously, which would immediately take you out of the fight. What elevated Titan to the spot seems to be the way he burned himself into the memory of all warriors of light who had the displeasure of fighting him before he got nerfed by the power of hardware. Let's be honest, nobody really cared about what happened after the finale of Endwalker, with the entire game just sort of being caught in a lull waiting to see what comes next. We were all tired. We've just been to the end of the universe. To destroy the literal incarnation of all despair in the known reality, we really couldn't be bothered with anything else. Except, we got a little bit of a breath of fresh air when the Barbariccia trial swept in to pummel the community back to attention. In the rankings, Barbariccia made it to a surprisingly high 6th place with 4.71 total points. In part because Xeno's video didn't include her, but I think he may just have ranked her higher than C tier. The emotional impact really wasn't there, to be honest, but they put some sweet little mechanics in the fight, and it was an overall smooth experience. Thank you very much, team. Really enjoyed that one. Feel free to do it again. On top of that, her design was kind of incredible too, with 2 distinct forms that she switched back and forth to, completely transforming the pacing of the fight. Also, the short hair looks really good on her. I mean, damn girl, you should wear that more often. It was chaos, but it was glorious chaos. And for that, I greatly appreciate her addition to the game. Fine, now that we got that out of the way, we can finally proceed to look at the actual top 5 winners of this arduous ranking process. You ready? Yes? No? Well, why are you still here? And if you're still here, why are you not subscribed yet? The button's right there. Anyway, buckle up because we're getting into the meat and beans of this thing now. I'm not sure why I wrote beans. I think I just wanted to be funny, and like beans are generally a funny thing. Anyway, here's the ranking. After the tiebreaker round, Diamond Weapon lands in 5th place with an average of 5.34 points. Throwing out a bit of a spoiler here, this is the only non-story trial that made it into the top 5, and for good reason. I love every one of the weapon fights because I carry the flame of romance and adventure in my heart, and I love giant robots as any good man should. But everything about the presentation and gameplay of Diamond Weapon just fits, with overall story impact being sort of the only thing it's missing. But that doesn't stop its extreme version from probably being one of the smoothest fights in the entire game. That's the thing, if I had to describe Diamond Weapon with one word, it would be smooth. It wasn't that difficult except that goddamn number mechanic. And it didn't need to, because it was a pleasant fight. It didn't really get frustrating either when you farmed it for a while. It was great party finder content that didn't lead to mass dissolution events like some others. Looking at you, Mr. Skip Sawyer. And because of its butter smooth design, it's only right to let Diamond Weapon sit atop the others as the crown jewel of optional trials. In the tiebreaker round that I enlisted the help of my handful of friends for, Nidhogg emerged as the 4th place winner. And even though I really wanted Diamond Weapon to make it, I have already injected enough of my opinion into this, so it's time to accept the will of the people. Don't let it be said that I'll have my ego taint the results of this auspicious ranking. Many people love the Nidhogg trial, and it's not hard to see why. There's nothing particularly exotic about the mechanics of the fight, and they're not terribly annoying either, making it a relatively pleasant farm. One of the common themes with the upper rankings is that they shine in terms of their presentation and emotional weight, and Nidhogg is no exception to this. We have here a 3-part fight with an equal number of distinct themes growing in intensity until the Great Worm is finally slain. Even Astinian makes an appearance, proving to everyone that he'll forever be the greatest Dragoon to ever live. I don't care how long your combo is, you'll never exude as much aura as this man when he's corrupted by awesome power. It's an overall excellent fight that is placed at a turning point in the Heavensward story, after which we learned nothing and disposed of the terrible cursed object that led to the entire situation in the worst way possible. Well, at least we had a good time dragon hunting, I guess. With an average of 5.68 points, Ravana lands at 3rd place of the rankings after the tiebreaker round. Much like the other fights in the upper ranks we've looked at so far, the normal and extreme version fights were pleasant and interesting affairs and generally a good time to play. But Ravana manages to rise over the rest by injecting himself with the power of pure undistilled hype, even though he's placed as one of the less important fights in the story. You know the drill at that point: new region, new beast tribe, they're summoning some dumbass primal, go deal with it, yada 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 yada. But maybe it's precisely the contrast between what should have been a throwaway encounter and the absolute god-blasting might of the man himself that made him so memorable. So the reason why he's great may be similar to Titans, only with Ravana's encounter being the more refined version of that concept, proving that sometimes you don't need the world's most intricate lore and story tie-in, and slapping someone across the face with the proverbial frying pan is good enough. Either way, I think I can agree that Ravana is a warlord deserving of his bronze medal. Probably to no one's surprise, the Warrior of Light easily makes it into the top 2 as one of the most widely beloved fights in the entire game, period. The tiebreaker in this one wasn't even close. Everyone loves this guy. Sorry Ravana, you may be oozing hype, but it ain't enough to beat John Final Fantasy himself over here. With an average score of 5.69, funny number, this one really stands head and shoulders above the others in terms of presentation and general theming. Not only is a battle with the Avatar of Hope the perfect finishing touch for an expansion named Shadowbringers, he's also just so freaking cool! Man is throwing out limit breaks like it's candy and absolutely clowns on us by pulling out a 4th level limit break that we'll never get to use. And that's just one of the tricks that only we as players usually have up our sleeves that he doesn't just imitate but does better than us. Oh, you think you're the only one with the limit breaks? You think you're the only one who can call upon the power of your comrades? Think again, Troutface, consider these odds evened! The normal mode fight is already an absolute treat, and the extreme version only elevates the fight even further and turns it into an instant classic. It's one of the more difficult trials, but it's neither brutally unfair nor annoying. But that difficulty just makes them clear so much more rewarding. I don't think there's a single person out there who hates this fight, and the only question remaining is what could possibly be better than this absolute legend. Oh dear, oh lord, it's the Heavensward fans. Nobody talk about Stone Skin or Goat or you may trigger their PTSD. But in all seriousness, I'm not a man who really understands the concept of nostalgia, and I still think Thornton is an absolutely deserved number 1. Fair enough, I didn't have much data to go by, but from the samples I could gather, Thornton ended up with a unanimous S rank across the board, which leaves him with a flat 6 points average. This is likely for much the same reason as the Warrior of Light, with Thornton being positioned as the final boss of the Heavensward expansion. Here is another fight that's a treat for the senses in every way, which is elevated further by its extreme mode encounter. Ooh baby, give me more of that shattering screen transition. The combination of presentation and impact is a little more subdued than in the Warrior of Light fight, but that sort of appropriately places it in the cohesive whole of Heavensward. Where the other trials lose some of their overall impact in their extreme version, Thornton just slaps harder in every conceivable way. Delaying the use of the Knights of the Round theme until the second phase of the fight was absolutely brilliant, and that transition still sends shivers down my spine. Coupled with the fact that where in normal mode, Thornton falls into despair after the Warrior of Light won't die after being hit with an attack that's literally called Ultimate End. He steels himself in extreme for the real battle is just about to begin. And that battle is an absolute onslaught of sensory input. While only some of the mechanics are actually tricky, the way in which they are combined and weave together turns the fight into a complex dance of figuring out just what the fish is going on at any given moment. More complex fights have been added over the years, but Thornton has still aged well as one knight who is not to be trifled with. Once again proving that Heavensward was an absolute banger of an expansion. Even, how many years later? 10 years? That's barely a decade, relax man. You're acting like life is over, it's only a few years, come on. So thank you, King Thornton, for being the undisputed number 1 best trial of all time. Well, that was a lot more than I thought it would be, but here we are at the end of a drawn-out process of a ranking that nobody asked for. If you want to take a look at the entire ranking, I'm putting it on screen right now, so you can take a look, have fun with it, and argue with me in the comments if you want to challenge my terrible takes. If you enjoyed this, or you want to be part of the creation of more videos like this, consider liking this video, subscribing, and if you're super awesome, following me on social media as well. That'll be it for me, I'm tired now, take care everybody, and I'll see you all in the next one.